Other thing I would watch is some kind of technical breakdown. You want to watch the 200-day moving average for the S&P 500. That's 28.39 right now, 28.39 here. And you can see we're way above that with 28.90. So we've got a good 50 points to go. That's probably the most important thing everybody is watching. Finally, you want to watch the earnings commentary. We're going to get them very fast. Beginning October 15th, that's when J.P. Morgan, a lot of the banks, Wells Fargo report, Johnson & Johnson that day, next day IBM, and then the ones I love, the big global industrial names, your Honeywells and Textron, 2 days after that. In a couple weeks, we'll have a much better idea about fourth quarter guidance, which is what everybody's caring about right now. Dow's just up, Dow's down 19 points down. Carl, back to you.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. Market PMI, not too bad at 51. Everybody, though, holding tight ahead of ISM services. Let's get to Rick Santelli. Rick?
Yeah, there's a lot of different metrics out there traders like to use, but we know the one at top of the 10 is what we're waiting for. That ISM number, I can already see it moving markets a bit. We're starting to get a little buying at treasuries, keeping us at the low end of the range. Look at a 4-day chart of 2-year note yields. A couple things should jump out at you. First of all, here we are at 145. Open the chart up to September of 2017. That was the cycle low comp. In other words, on the 5th of September, we traded a close of 143, which took us back to September of 2017. And now we're what? 2 basis points away from that? Very significant with all the big data points coming out over the next 24 hours. If you look at the July 2016 historic all-time low in 10s around 136, you see on the far right, early September, we had a 146 cycle low close. We're hovering 11 basis points above that. There's your steepener. We have steepened out to about 12 basis points. We're starting to give a little back. We are underperforming a little bit today on the long end. Short end's down 1 or 2. The long end's down 2 or 3. We want to monitor that, especially that dynamic in front of the numbers. And finally, there's been so much talk about what's going on with regard to securities markets, yields moving lower, how that, of course, reinforces and goes back and forth in a feedback loop with the weakness in equities. But Barclays high yield index spread is still tame, even though it definitely has been rising, as you see. Now, you see the spike on the far left of that chart. Of course, that was a fourth quarter of last year. To give you some kind of perspective, we all know that when interest rates now move lower in the world we live in, it definitely starts to flash a little bit amber, and you are starting to see bits of that in the high yield sector. Carl, David, Jim, back to you.
All right, Rick, we'll see you in a few minutes. When we come back, Goldman's chief U.S. equity strategist David Costa is here. We'll find out how he thinks we should navigate these markets, which have been increasingly volatile as we move into Q4. Dow is down 23. We're back in a moment.
The Bond Report.
Today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop, sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why new Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get new Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year.
The relaxing sound of fresh, cold running water. And you can have it in your kitchen. With amazing savings on Samsung fridge freezers at Currys PC World. Like the RB31 with its chilled water dispenser for only $3.99. Or upgrade to the Samsung RS8000 American-style fridge freezer with water and ice dispenser. A huge 609 litres of storage space. At just $104.9. How relaxing. At Currys PC World. Energy rating A+. T's and C's apply.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. NFL lives right here on TuneIn, and if you're not following your favorite team, got to do it today. NFL action, well, is going to be live here, home and away calls this Thursday. We've got the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks.
They got all kinds of firepower. They're loaded, and it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to take everything. It's a game we need to play. We need to be involved in games like this if you're going to have a good season.
Kickoff for that game is going to be 8:20 p.m. Eastern right here on TuneIn. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. But he stays on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week, this Saturday? The scoreboard will be working overtime as Sam Ehlinger brings his vaunted Texas Longhorns passing attack to West Virginia for a Big 12 conference matchup against the Mountaineers. The action starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Just search college to listen today. NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
Fake to pro size, no, the ham size. He breaks 3 down to the 5.
Yes, follow the 20 to the 15 to the 10. 5, touchdown.
Tonight, hear the home and away call as the Los Angeles Rams visit the Seattle Seahawks at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Right up the middle, touchdown.
Trying to dive, touchdown.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
S&P gainers since the beginning of the month. Obviously, McCormick with the outstanding day the other day. Lennar has a slew of price target increases from at least 6 banks this morning. We'll get stopped trading with Jim in a moment. Dow's down 26.
Through the AT&T network.
It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News Update.
Lizzo tells Elle magazine that she didn't like herself growing up. She says, when I was younger, I wanted to change everything about myself. And the reason I didn't love who I was is because I was told I wasn't lovable by not seeing myself in beauty ads, by not seeing myself in television, by lack of representation. My self-hatred got so bad that I was fantasizing about being other people. But you can't live your life trying to be somebody else. To hear music from Lizzo, search today's hits on TuneIn.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Rachel Martin with David Green, and this is Up First from NPR News.
And it's defined like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Good. Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn. Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every.
And it's a home run.
Single.
And gone.
Game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
Technology and the future of work. November 4th in San Francisco. CNBC's At Work Summit. Top CEOs and tech leaders. Winning strategies. Reimagining the workplace. Go to cnbcevents.com for tickets.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
We found the perfect new home and we wanted to move fast, but we didn't feel confident making an offer until we knew our other home would sell.
Introducing Simple Sale by HomeLight. With Simple Sale, cash buyers compete to make you an offer whenever you're ready to sell. There's no prep, no hassle, no uncertainty.
We sold our home in under a week, and it was so easy. And that perfect new home we found, we got it.
To see your simple sale price, visit homelight.com/simple today.
Time for Jim and Stop Trading.
When the economy gets weak, we tend to look at supermarkets, which, by the way, now Walmart is the biggest, and things like Kroger. But Kroger has been under pressure, whether it be from Amazon, Whole Foods, or whether it be from Target, which has a big supermarket with grocery, or, of course, Dollar Tree or Walmart. Today, my sources indicate that they had cut 1,600 people, district coordinator level, to try to get the table of employment better, and the stock's still down. And it just shows you that no matter what you do, if you're a big unionized national chain and you're going up against a Walmart, it doesn't matter. I thought this was a very positive move, but Kroger, it doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. Wow.
It was already a tough margin business.
It is a very tough margin business. It's a dicey day. Obviously, we're 4 minutes away from a number that could make me sound foolish, so I will not give predictions. But I do have Bill Newland's on tonight. So let's find out what Constellation's up to.
Okay, I look forward to that.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Last night you were spraying mustard at everything, weren't you?
Yeah, it was French's Mustard McCormick. I had to stab it with because it was Colonel Mustard with the knife.
Yes.
In Clue. You don't have a clue, do you? You have a clue?
Jim, we'll see you tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. ISM Services, just moments away, and Goldman's David Costin. Don't go anywhere.
This is Miguel.
Hola. Stuck in traffic during the big game? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to your favorite NFL team on the go. No TV required. Even during rush hour, you won't miss a single touchdown. Listen to the NFL on TuneIn Premium today.
Catch the latest news as it happens with MSNBC on TuneIn. From American politics to global events, when breaking news hits, you'll never miss a moment again. Search MSNBC on TuneIn to hear the latest.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall!
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. NFL lives right here on TuneIn, and if you're not following your favorite team, got to do it today. NFL action, is going to be live here, home and away calls this Thursday. We've got the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks.
They got all kinds of firepower. They're loaded, and it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to take everything. It's a game we need to play. We need to be involved in games like this if you're going to have a good season.
Kickoff for that game is going to be 8:20 p.m. Eastern right here on TuneIn. That's your TuneIn Sports Update. Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio happenings across the app. Explore exclusive content.
It's called Indie.
Learn about the hottest new podcasts.
The Nostalgia Mixtape, a new podcast hosted by yours truly, Savannah Shroudy.
And get alerted when the big game's about to begin.
This Sunday is Championship Sunday, when we'll find out which two teams are going to play for the Lombardi Trophy.
Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
Thursday morning. Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Sarah Eisen.
I'm Morgan Brennan.
It says Sarah Eisen, but I know better. David Faber at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Sarah does have the morning off. Markets obviously tight range because we're about to get a very important number, ISM Services, in the wake of that manufacturing number a couple of days ago. Let's get to Rick Santelli. Rick?
All right, everybody hold your breath. Well, it's a disappointment. 52.6. 52.6. We're expecting a number around 55. Sequentially follows 56.4. But where does this take us back to? Actually, much farther than I would have thought. 52.6 is going to take us back to August of 2016 when it was 51.8. This series has held up so remarkably well that prior to this data, 53.7 for July was the low. Now, granted, it's over 50. It's still in expansion territory, but nonetheless, yields have dropped, stock market has dropped, so you can sense what's going on here. There's so much more data. Let's go through it. Factory orders, and these are August numbers. Factory orders down 1/10, about as expected. And if you take out transportation, it improves to unchanged. Durable good orders. Now, these are final reads. And the reason they're important is because we take away the mid-month read. Well, the mid-month read was up 0.2. The final read is also up 0.2. If we look at ex-transportation, similar dynamic. It was 0.5 mid-month. It's 0.5 on the final. If you look at capital goods orders, non-defense ex-aircraft, forget all those words, it's a proxy for business spending, capital investment. And it is not looking good. It is down 0.4. It was down 0.2 on our mid-month look, so it's deteriorated. And if we look at shipments versus orders, that's up 0.3. That's a 10th light of our mid-month expectations. So the data here is not spectacular, but it's pretty much a push on durables and factory orders, and definitely a weakening number on the service sector, but still in expansion mode. Morgan, back to you.
Rick Santelli, thanks for breaking that down for us right now. Big move lower in the Dow. We're down about 237 points after hovering near the flat line on the heels of those readings. Let's bring in Steve Weissman now for reaction to today's data. Steve.
Yeah, this is not what was expected. There was some concern among some of the economists I was reading that this would be a weaker number. Look, it could be that trade is really playing a role here. Some of the people who answer these questions, I think are the third or fourth largest weighting in the index are retail. And you had those tariffs come in place. That could be part of it. It could be an overall sentiment among business that leads to it. It's hard to know exactly what's pushing it. It's a reason for caution. It's not quite in contraction territory yet. We look for that to be below 50, and it's not a level that, like the manufacturing index, not a level that would indicate recession. It's part of a slowing in the economy. It's a disappointment. I think, Morgan, the risk today was to the downside. I don't think anybody was going to get very happy or optimistic with an upside number here, but the risk to the downside shows that perhaps some of the manufacturing weakness that's been out there is going over and affecting the services sector. And now the question becomes, does it affect the consumer? And as you know, we've been reporting, and I'll be back at 10:30 to talk about the really growing pessimism among average Americans out there in our All-America survey.
All right, Steve, thank you for that. Steve Leisman joining us with his take this morning. Goldman Sachs Chief U.S. Equity Strategist David Kostin is with us as well as we continue to look through some of these internals here, David. The employment component does hang in 50.4 versus a prior 53.1. So, I mean, what happens to the argument that the consumer is strong?
Well, they would suggest on the services side the consumer is slowing. In terms of the latest data, we saw the manufacturing index drop of 47 earlier this week on the first of the month. So that's certainly on average in the third quarter was below 50. So the manufacturing side of the economy clearly reflecting, in my view, and my colleagues, the trade issues and some of the slowing growth in Europe and elsewhere. But the services ISM has been notably pretty solid in the mid 50s for a while. So this certainly would be disappointing. The outlook for the market would be modestly higher, towards around 3,100 at the end of this year. So that
You're sticking with that.
That would be reflective. Look, we're sitting here today, and starting next week, we'll be having third quarter earnings releases. And so for the next 3 to 4 weeks, that will be the primary focus. And of course, it'll be reflective of the business activity in July, August, and September. And so really we'll be also looking at what are the indications suggesting for into the fourth quarter to next year. Right now, the expectations are for year-over-year decline in earnings. It'll be the first decline in earnings in several years since 2016, right. Which is notable because that was the last time you saw the indication in some of the services. At that time, oil prices were down a lot, and it was really driven by the energy sector before.
Would that still be happening if buybacks were pacing at last year's pace?
That's a fair point to look at. Right now, the expectation is that buybacks probably were pretty muted. You did have authorizations strong, but expectations after second quarter is that buybacks probably be at a more muted pace. I think that reflects the corporate uncertainty from business outlook in terms of tariffs. I think tariffs and trade become the number one topic in my conversations with portfolio managers. A big concern about what's likely to happen. Pretty mercurial president in terms of what's what may happen from day to day, but that has certainly been weighing on decisions about capital spending and probably uses of cash for buybacks.
Right, which I think makes maybe viewers wonder how much faith do we have in any kind of corporate guidance that we get, either pre-announced or on these prints for 2020.
So agree, that's a question. It's a cloudy outlook. You have politics, you have trade, etc. So what you have, you can look at the dividends, right? This is uses of cash in terms of giving that money back to shareholders. And so that's a strategy that we're focusing on in this environment where there is uncertainty, both on the services side, although less than the manufacturing. What do you see in terms of dividend growth? And if you look at a group of stocks that have both high dividend yields and dividend growth, those are outperforming. They trade at a lower multiple than the market. They've got better growth, look at 9% dividend growth versus about 6% for the overall market. And payout ratios right now for the overall market are around 30, 32, 34%. So there's still plenty of cash that companies can use to direct it back to shareholders. And I think that's a strategy in this environment.
David, we're showing a board right now of the Dow. It's down 283 points. We've just broken back below 26,000, but that banner on the bottom, the 3-day loss is now over 1,000 points for the Dow. If you're not a day trader, you're tuning in and you're seeing a stat like that right now, it's going to sound pretty scary. What do you tell to people who maybe aren't checking their portfolios on a daily basis, but now are stepping back and going, okay, what do I do now?
Well, first of all, you may be one of the few people who actually focus on the Dow. Most people in the institutional market focus on the S&P 500. So I respect that. But that's a
We've seen big
question.
moves in the S&P as well.
It's only the optics. As the market has gotten higher and higher over the years, the Dow, the point number in the Dow becomes more dramatic. But what do we tell people as we look at what are the fundamentals telling us? You need a framework to think about what's happening in how you direct a portfolio. So you got the economy, you got earnings, you have valuation, you have money flow. And so what is the economy telling us? It's weak, or it's weakening, I should be more precise. It is weakening based on, let's look at some of that ISM, both manufacturing and non-manufacturing. On the other hand, the consumer balance sheets have been deleveraged, and the consumer's pretty strong in terms of the starting point. But that's an area of concern. Then you've got earnings. What are earnings telling us? This quarter, we're expecting for the first time negative earnings growth on a year-over-year basis for the first time in basically 3 years. So that's also an area of concern. On the other hand, people were expecting negative earnings growth in the first quarter and the second quarter, and it came in positive because tax rates were lower than corporates were expecting. So that's the earnings front. And then valuation, the market's trading around 16 times forward earnings. Well, that's basically high, but not extraordinarily high. So that's telling you that telling us that on average, the market's likely to move modestly higher. And then there's the buybacks. And Carl made reference to the fact that the buybacks have been more muted in this environment. So it's not a terrific story. On the other hand, earnings bond yields are extremely low.
Well, yes, that's actually what I wanted to point out. We take a look at the 10 years. We watched the Dow. The S&P, by the way, is down 1.08%. Thank you, David, for affirming its importance, which I try to do here as well.
Okay.
But you've got a 10-year approaching 1.5 again.
Right.
What does that do to your overall investor as they look to diversify and or not because they can't get a return?
So as you point out, what are the alternatives in terms of the investment landscape? And so equities, even in this environment, would look somewhat more attractive than bond yields. Buying treasuries at 1.5%. Corporate bonds also spreads are pretty narrow relative to history. That is a more challenging type of environment. On the other hand, as we think out, although there's relatively less clarity on what the outlook is for 2020, there is a likelihood that if we have deceleration at this point, it's likely to actually pick up over time as we look into towards next year in terms of economic activity. So the economy right now is growing on a run rate basis somewhere around between 1.5% and 1.5% or so, which is slow.
You mentioned something earlier, which I think it's always interesting. So when you talk to clients, when you talk to the institutional investors that you're going around and marketing to and telling them what you think, what is the main concern that they have? What are you hearing most often in terms of
so the questions. Trade, number one.
Right.
The second would be on basically bond yields, growth, broadly speaking, growth. The IPO market, what does that suggest? Antitrust, what are some of the postures with respect to the policy of the administration in different areas, the Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, things like that. Those are some of the themes that basically get discussed. What are some strategies in those areas? So one of the areas on on the economic slowdown would be focusing on services companies as a services providing as opposed to goods producing. We talked about that in the past. That's a way to, if you will, somewhat inoculate yourself about concerns over trade, and because the services, relatively 70% of the economy is basically somewhere into service. So that's one strategy. The idea concerns about trade, owning companies with domestic-facing end markets. And then the third is basically in a low bond yield environment, what are some companies, what are the strategies involving more dividend-based, income-based strategies? So you look at Verizon, you look at AT&T. Earlier today, Pepsi would be a company that would fall into a basket of companies like that. Paychecks. You have a variety of companies, different industries that have a combination of yield plus the growth in the dividend yield, and we would view those as attractive in this environment.
So earlier in the year, you came on and said you screened out margin growth. Is that still even? Are there, five companies in that list?
So expectation is you're going to have margin contraction this quarter. And it's sort of interesting dynamic between the aggregate market and the median stock. Because the aggregate market, obviously skewed by some of the larger companies, is going to have year-over-year earnings growth down around 3%. But the median company will be up around 3%. So that's an important distinction if you're a stock picker and you're the audience to which you're referring. And individual companies will actually have modest growth in their profits. Some of the bigger companies, semiconductors, having a difficult time this quarter, year-over-year basis. A lot of technology will be hard pressed on some of the hardware companies, and so that's helping to unfortunately drag down the earnings growth overall.
Finally, David, are you doing any reallocation, U.S. versus Europe?
Well, Europe is having a lot of difficulty. Yep. The attraction there would be on the income front, where dividend yields are actually much higher than they are here in the United States.
Is it tempting yet?
One of the issues on Europe is a lot of their business activity involves exports, and so to the extent that they're exporting, whether that's into Asia, the U.S. issue on tariffs, that would be tempering enthusiasm for that at the present time.
All right, a lot to handle. Too much to get into 5 or 6 minutes, but thank you, David.
Okay,
David Costin, Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, interesting to watch that plunge in bond yields right now. 1.516 on that 10 years. We look at Tesla right there. When we come back, we're going to talk about why that stock, which is down now 32% for the year, is moving lower. Plus Pepsi popping, or at least it was on earnings. The stock is near an all-time high. You can see it right there. We're going to dig through the numbers next when Squawk on the Street comes back.
For years, we weren't getting enough sleep.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Down come the leaves and up goes my energy bill.
Want to stop your heating bills going through the roof? Get to B&Q. We've a wide range of winter home warmers, from draft excluders to loft insulation rolls. Need home delivery or insulation advice? Ask in store or visit DIY.com. You can do it when you B&Q it.
MLB is right here on TuneIn.
A swing and a drive to right field. That's it. Well, Ramirez back, and that ball's gone.
And to find it all, you need to search MLB on TuneIn.
By the wall, out of here!
Home and away calls are a click away on TuneIn Premium.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. NFL lives right here on TuneIn, and if you're not following your favorite team, got to do it today. NFL action, well, is going to be live here, home and away calls this Thursday. We've got the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks.
They got all kinds of firepower. They're loaded, and it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to take everything. It's a game we need to play. We need to be involved in games like this if you're going to have a good season.
Kickoff for that game is going to be 8:20 p.m. Eastern right here on TuneIn. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
It's Liz Hernandez with your TuneIn Music News Update. Lizzo tells Elle magazine that she didn't like herself growing up. She says, "When I was younger, I wanted to change everything about myself. And the reason I didn't love who I was is because I was told I wasn't lovable by not seeing myself in beauty ads, by not seeing myself in television, by lack of representation. My self-hatred got so bad that I was fantasizing about being other people. But you can't live your life trying to be somebody else." To hear music from Lizzo, search today's hits on TuneIn.
Make sure to follow TuneIn today so you're always in the know. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search @TuneIn.
On markets right now, you've seen big moves in the last couple of moments lower. with the Dow down 275 points right now, breaking below 26K. The S&P, the broader market, is also down 0.8%. The NASDAQ, similar move lower as well. Of course, this coming on the heels of that much weaker than expected September ISM non-manufacturing number, a read of 52.6, which is the worst reading since October of 26. Every sector's in the red right now except for real estate. And Treasury yields have also been moving lower on this report as well.
Let's talk a bit about Tesla. The company did deliver a record amount of vehicles in the third quarter, but it still fell short of what was Elon Musk's target of 100,000, just a little bit short. Phil LeBeau has a lot more for us this morning. Phil.
And the question, David, that a lot of people are asking this morning, and clearly you see that the bears are having their way just a little bit with Tesla shares, is whether or not demand is leveling off for Tesla vehicles. And that's because there are some who are saying they probably could have delivered more vehicles if there was greater demand. There was nothing indicating that they were falling short or having problems when it comes to delivering vehicles. Here are the total numbers. 97,000 delivered in the third quarter. The consensus was 99,000. Elon Musk said they had a shot at 100,000. Model 3 made up just under 80,000, roughly in line with expectations. Model S and X making up 17,000 and change. So what does that mean for the full year guidance? So far, they have delivered about 255,000 vehicles. That's the red line you see in the far right there. They need to come up with another 105,000 vehicles in order to make 360,000, which was the guidance that they set earlier this year. They have not changed their guidance. Guys, we should also point out, as you take a look at shares of Tesla, JMP Securities out today, moving the stock to market underperform, basically a sell rating, and raising the question, has demand leveled off? Could they have delivered more vehicles if there was greater demand? They are arguing, yes, they could have. And that's why you're looking at a stock right now, one reason why you're looking at a stock right now down greater than 6%.
Yeah, Phil, we noted that JMP downgrade earlier about this demand question because the analyst did seem to sort of sense almost give up, or at least questioning his 15 times EBITDA multiple for 2020 estimates. What's your take here in terms of the competitive landscape? Other vehicles, EV vehicles that are now offered by major manufacturers, or the expiration of the tax breaks?
Right. I don't think that that's a big... The tax break, I do not think, is a major factor at this point. Look, it's being cut from, what was it, down at like $3,750 down to maybe $1,800. I mean, at this point, when you're buying a $60,000 vehicle or an $80,000 or $100,000 vehicle, that tax break is not a big incentive at this point. So I don't think that that's a big factor. I also think that the competitive landscape, while it is increasing for Tesla, that you're seeing more people, whether it's Porsche, whether it's other automakers, Audi, coming out with electric vehicles, they're not at a level yet where it's seriously cutting into the sales at Tesla. And so it all comes back to what JMP brings up today, which is, should there have been greater demand? Now, the bulls will counter, look, they are smoothing out their delivery cadence, and you're going to have China coming online, theoretically, at least that's the hope of Tesla, later this year. And if they can get that up and it's a smooth launch of that factory, David, well, you've got the world's largest EV market that they are going to be directly manufacturing in, and that should be a huge boost to deliveries.
What's the capacity for that? Have they said, Phil, in terms of what they can?
They haven't said officially. I think that when it's all said and done, ultimately in a couple of years, theoretically, I believe that the capacity could be anywhere between 300,000 to 400,000, and that's just a back-of-the-envelope projection from talking with people. But initially, the deliveries and the production are going to be very limited, but then they hope to ramp up, especially as the Model Y comes online starting late next year, if it's on schedule.
Phil LeBeau, thank you. When we come back, we are all over the sell-off. Take a look at the Dow right now. We're down 240 points. The S&P is down 20. 2867 is the level there. Breath is strong in terms of the selling here. The only sector that is in the green is real estate. We're on track for big losses for all the major averages for the end of the week. More Squawk on the Street after this break.
Let me tell you something. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. If you buy items from EU suppliers or sell to EU customers, there'll be new requirements affecting businesses of all sizes. You'll need an EORI trader number and know how to make a customs declaration. You'll also need to make sure you have the right supporting documents for the goods you buy and sell. Find out more about how to prepare. Follow the step-by-step guide at gov.uk/Brexit-traders.
Right now, the future is being written by people like you. Creative thinkers, tech lovers, problem solvers. Are you going to stand by and watch? Well, show the world what you've got. Join others around the UK on an EY degree apprenticeship in digital and technology. And earn a salary working with exciting businesses while studying towards a degree. Don't let the future pass you by. For more information and to apply, search EY Digital Apprentice.
The MLB is in full swing.
Looking up, and this one is up and out. A home run.
Swung on and into the air to deep left. That ball is high. That is far. That is gone.
To listen, just search MLB Today on TuneIn Premium so you don't miss a moment of the games on TuneIn. College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stays on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week, this Saturday? The scoreboard will be working overtime as Sam Ellinger brings his vaunted Texas Longhorns passing attack to West Virginia for a Big 12 conference matchup against the Mountaineers. The action starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Just search college to listen today.
This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, I'll talk with Senator Cory Booker, who's looking for a breakout moment in the crowded field